I wanna take you to McDonald's with a candle. Girl, it's my love you can't handle. I see you walking on your way home from work. Your Tesco tunic really drives me berserk. I'm for real, it ain't no quirk. My love is waiting the way you would lurk in a bush or a car park in town. I bought you this necklace, it cost me £12 from Argos. Elizabeth Duke, baby you're the Skywalker to my Luke, the Darth to the Vader, flip over the crossfader. I'll serenade you with a bag of Space Raiders or Walkers or Smiths or maybe even Quavers, cause my love for you is like...
Croissant, welcome to Tales for Wales. Oh, your mother's got a penis. It's happening, blah, it's happening, spa. I got this thing on my phone the other day. Basically, right? Sorry, maybe we can start that again. It looked like I peaked as well. I got too excited.
I just was not expecting that at all. Of all the intros, I was thinking you could come up with. I was like, "What is
your
what
mother's
is
got
this?
a
Oh,
penis?"
fucking hell,
I got this thing the other day on my phone. Right, it enables it to ring. We've got to start this episode off with a GLC for show.
of course.
Yeah, usually we have a good intro where I say, I'm Franks, and I don't know, how do we normally start the pod, man? It's been fucking
You say
time.
Tales for Wales. This is
Oh,
a
the
Tales
pod
for Wales,
that
the pod that never fails.
To tell you your mother's got a penis. Oh, to tell you that guns don't kill people, historians do. I read it on the news on BBC Two. La, la, Sorry. Pre-warning. This episode, next episode, and the next episode, we're going to record all tonight, so that usually gets a bit mad.
Back to back, baby.
I've also had mad insomnia for like the last 6 days, and I've been getting around 2.5 to 3 hours sleep a night. I showed you my Garmin sleep thing, didn't I? Earlier?
I did, yeah. I've seen the data, mate. It's,
I didn't go
troubling.
to bed until 4 this morning, until 7:30, and that was like the most sleep I've had. And then the other day it was like 10 until 1 in the morning, then up all night. So I've just been absolutely zonked. So yeah, this might be slightly chaotic and slightly more.
It's gonna be wacko, isn't it? You're gonna be fucking.
And with that in mind,
gone crazy.
I was doing a little bit of like market research and just listening to other history podcasts, because we had some people follow us who also do history podcasts. So I thought I'd check out their stuff, and then I went on a bit of a check in like some of the more professional Welsh history podcasts, and we were such idiots when I was listening to theirs. I was like, oh god, they sound so like they're like, hello and welcome to tonight's show where we'll talk about Banna Brycheiniog, and it's usually like one person talking, and it's so like articulate and like well thought
well
out.
put together and actually thoughtful. I think that's part of our charm. I've grown to just accept that what our USP is that we're not bloody perfect.
Oh yeah,
right?
I didn't laugh
perfect.
once listening to their stuff.
And,
and I found it
exactly,
dry.
we got a bit of humour in ours, you know. We got, and we're lovable. We're a couple of lovable lads, if I don't say so myself.
I know, nothing makes you more unlovable than saying you're lovable to other people.
Yeah.
What you'll know about me, I'm lovable.
What could you say about me and Franco except that we're affable lads? We're just a bunch of affable lads.
But it did make me think. I was listening to it. I thought, we're so unserious. Like, none of them call anybody like a nonce or a pedo. No one's getting any of that treatment.
They treat history with a real reverence, whereas we just go like, "You sound like a nonce. That's a funny name." You know, I remember bloody one of our first episodes on Captain Morgan, and there's a guy named something Guizmon. He was like the mayor of Panama or something. And we go, Luis Guizmon. And we just kept saying it.
Yeah. I really think we should redo the first 10 episodes, because they're like, I don't know, I just think we should redo them.
Mate, I think that's come and gone. I think if anything, we should do some of the ones like... well, not the lost tapes, but you know, the ones that have not gotten any traction at all because they were kind of like middle of the way through maybe season 1. Like I'm thinking like Moyla Dawn,
and they're shit audio.
And they're really good like stories and battles, but they kind of ruined a bit.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but my stop out fiance, who's been gone all bloody day, has just turned home patting her tummy. And
oh well, bloody hell!
Do you know what she did the other day when we were talking? We were lying in bed chatting, and she lifted up my shirt and screamed at my tummy. She went, "Ah!" Back down again. It was so funny. I was crying.
Sounds like a sequence in a horror film that someone wakes up from a nightmare. You know.
Well, we were being giddy and excitable, and then we were just talking. She went, "Ah!" and pulled the shirt back down again.
Couldn't contain it.
Oh, that's a laugh. Sorry, man. I'm going to be a bit all over the shop tonight. So
It's all right, mate. Don't worry
so
about
other
it.
history podcasts. This is a public service line. I imagine if you found us, you probably tried the other ones and thought they're not your vibe as well, because you're probably a city.
Yeah,
fool
I
as
imagine
well.
if people who are, are sticking with us, especially like the older Patreons and stuff like that, we must offer something a little bit different, a little bit
Yeah.
more, more of a delicate
We're
flavour,
not your
maybe,
Graham
because
Pappy's historians.
we're not your goddamn grandpappies
We're
history
not
podcast, okay?
historians. We're drunks with a
Yeah.
hobby.
We're barely factual, quote unquote. We just
We're
we just sort
factual,
of look
mate.
up.
I want to have that.
We're factual enough. We're factual enough.
That's something like a Tory government would say. We're factual enough.
Who wants to listen to experts anymore, mate? That's what I
Yeah,
say.
the old Michael Gove. Yeah,
The old Michael Gove
Isn't that
excuse.
mad that during like a massive pandemic where we needed to know the expert advice, I think we've had enough from you lot. Don't you want to
I
hear?
think the I don't know why we're giving him like a
Yeah,
proper
Cockney.
working class.
Oh,
I
fuck,
think the audience are actually sick of death of experts as
I
well.
think
actually.
they want to hear from 50 lads I went to eat them with, actually. I think we know a thing
Yeah.
or two about viruses. That's an intense. You shouldn't even get that accent. That's for
well.
good people, that accent is. Gove's just an
Exactly.
absolute blah, 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 blubber lips. He's got the absolute
Blubber
rubberers. Yes, he's got rubber lips. He's absolutely
Was
rubber
it?
face.
I think it was Frankie Boyle who said that Gove looked he's simultaneously like a child and a paedophile, and I thought that's so fucking on the mark.
That's class. Yeah. He looks like a. Oh no, that's the Billy Connolly voice. It's a little Otto. So, what's you? I haven't spoken to you in a while, anyway.
I know it feels like we haven't spoken in ages. I mean, we did see each other on Tuesday, but I know what you mean,
Yeah.
and I get what
Yeah.
I understand what you're on about.
Saw you 2 days ago,
Yeah.
but we didn't really have. We were in the cinema, so you can't like chat much, can you?
No, we had a cheeky debrief pint, didn't we? But
Yeah,
that
and
was
that
it. It was
first
only a oneer as well.
It was so tasty. I mean, you were so sensible. We're like,
Yeah.
because our other mate was like, you could have strong armed us in for one more pint, but
Oh
like I
yeah,
said,
if he'd have laid it on thick, I think I would have stayed.
but I've had no
I got
sleep.
away.
I'm like having zero sleep, which means tonight's gonna be mad because I got a bunch of beer and like
Yeah,
when you're
beer
tired, it
and
gets
zero
you.
sleep, mate. Yeah, you're going to be
It
howling,
makes
especially because it's a
happier.
tripler.
Yeah, yes. And I'm doing the 3rd episode, so and it's a quiz, so that's going to be.
Oh
like
yeah, I was going to say
Smithy
we've
and
we've
Peach
timed this
and-
completely wrong, haven't we?
Well,
yeah.
do you know when Gavin and Stacey and Smithy's doing the
Oh, yeah.
pub quiz around? He goes, right, I know the answer is Gary Lineker. Just
Yeah.
that
I got one.
stuff.
I got one. Yeah.
It sounds like a wine's in a bit of Welsh water. Like, who am I? A wine in dude. Anyway,
Very good. Very good.
what's new? Give us go on crowbar and an anecdote.
Crowbar in. Let me haphazardly insert an anecdote now. So this was pre-written to reveal behind the curtain to the audience, but the other day I had a mop chop, I had a haircut, and a memory came flooding back to me from a few years back, and I'm pretty sure I've told you this before, but bear with me just for the audience sake.
There's a bear with you.
No,
Sorry.
oh God,
No,
have some
sorry.
sleep, mate. Have a kip, yeah.
Go have a sleep.
But so I was.
Can I
it
just
was
say
just
before,
after it. Go on.
when I used to live with a bunch of mates, and because I'm quite hyperactive, and when I'm really tired, I'm really annoying. I just go like, I'm so tired. I start like slapping at people and annoying, antagonizing, just to try and like perk myself up.
Slapping at people.
Well, like pouring at them and just annoying
Yeah.
them and like knocking over things. And Fletcher, my old Brummy housemate, used to, oh right, you're tired now. Go have a sleep. Just go have a sleep. You can tell you're tired. Just go upstairs and have half an hour.
Let's put you down for bed now.
And he's always, all right, I can tell you're tired. Off you go.
You're like a little whining baby. Going,
I
"All right,
was.
he's
I don't
tired.
wanna go
He's
to
overtired
bed."
now. He's overtired, if anything, now. That's why he's acting up.
It's all you're acting up, mate. Just get to bed. All right, see you later. Sorry, go on.
No, it's all good. So yeah, I was in the barbers, and it reminded me of when I first moved here to Danes Court. I used to go to the barbers up when I was in Craiger in this place called Talbot Green, and you know when you get used to the barbers, especially when you got like hair that is so like adamant to be shit like mine, you need like someone. When you find a barbers that can do it well, you kind of stick to them.
Yeah.
So like when but it's like a good 20-minute drive from where I am now, and I was like, I'm not doing the 20-minute drive there and back, blah blah blah. So I was like, I need to find a new barbers. was desperate for a haircut, so I just went, right, where's the nearest one? It was a place called Bully's Barbers, right? And it was in Fairwater, which is kind of renowned to be a little bit rough. But I thought, I'm not going to judge. All right, I'm just going to go there, see how they do. If if it goes bad, it goes bad. I won't go back. But I went there, and it did look a bit rough, to be fair. And they were proper like Cardiff,
Cardiff.
So when I went in, they absolutely eased any doubts I had. When they went, "Do you want a drink, mate?" And I was like, thinking they meant like coffee or tea.
Yeah.
And I jokingly said like, only if it's a beer, ha ha ha, in my best Cardiff accent to try and fit in, of course. And they went, oh yeah. He's like, oh yeah, we got Stella, we got this, we got. And I was like, oh, these guys, they're my friends straight away. I was like, fine.
That's quite a thing now, mate. Though, like most barbers will give you a beer. It's like
proper barbers. Yeah, I've noticed that. But I sat down and I was just waiting my turn because I was walking, and there was this kid who was getting his haircut before me. He must have been about 12, maybe 12, 13. And he was sat there, and the guy was asking him questions and stuff. And he was like, "Oh, do you play games then, mate? Do you play FIFA and that?" And he went, and he was, bless him, he was like, "No, I'm playing the new God of War Ragnarok, and that had just come out, or whatever."
Yeah. And
I also like God of War Ragnarok, and I'm not a FIFA boy, right? But this guy who at the barber was like, "What's that? What's God of War Ragnarok?" This guy thinks that a fucking PlayStation 5 is only for playing
FIFA,
fucking the latest FIFA and COD, right? And then he turned to me and he was like, "You heard about this? It's bloody God of War Ragnarok." I don't know why I've changed his accent all of a sudden, but I looked at this kid and I was thinking, a few years back that was me playing fucking non-FIFA games and all that. So, and I thought, and you know what? I was like, "I'm sorry, mate. You're going to learn a lesson. I'm throwing you under the fucking bus." And I was like, "What's that? What's fucking?" Doing my Cardiff accent again. What's fucking God of War? What's that? And then I was like, "Oh no, you should be." And thank God that you boys played FIFA in uni around me, so I knew it was. Otherwise, I'd been like, the old Pro Evo Soccer, is it?
Well, I gotta say, you're a rat. You're an absolute cowardly rat.
I am a rat. And this poor kid was just getting. I was joining in, dogpiling in this poor fucker. Virgin. Yeah. I was in my Stella thinking I was Billy Big Bollocks. It wasn't too long ago. I would have been the kid in the chair. But yeah, it reminded me of that.
Well,
when I was in the
you've
barbers,
lost my respect.
Well, I didn't go back to Bully's Barbers. I couldn't bear to. The mirror there showed a very different version of myself than anywhere else. So didn't like to face it.
We were only saying the other day we should embrace who we are. Embrace being weird nerds, and it's fine. But also, it is quite hard not to dogpile.
What, with two barbers from Fairside? Riverside? Fairside, Jesus. What did I even say before?
Fairwater.
Fairwater, Christ. Yeah. I was mixing up Riverside then and Fairwater. But two barbers from Fairwater looking at me. Look at me going, is he going to go? Because I could have evened the odds. It could have been 2v2. But he was going to leave. He's going to have his haircut and then leave. And then they'd both be on me.
Well, my barber's a ledge. Mostly it's M does my hair, but my barber's right near me called the Barberhood, and like he does loads of people's hair, like Cardiff City players, like proper cool people's hair. And after everyone's hair he cuts, he takes a photo and bits on his Instagram, and he's never once taken my.
I can imagine you going to take my pictures today, mate. Oh yeah,
yeah, got my blusher on. Yeah. But he's so sound. Me and him. I got him on Xbox, and like he plays a lot of COD and things. And he's just such a nice guy. But it is funny. Everyone else in there is so cool, and all has like their hair properly styled. I'm there. Throw it back in sides, please. But he's an absolute ledge. I get it though. There's
whenever I'm in the bar, go on.
I was gonna say there's a bit of the barber shop is a bit of a vibe, isn't it? It's like it's quite male bravado sometimes. And what I love about with my one, there is none of that. He's a really everyone else in the shop is painfully cool, or a bit like a Aggie, or a bit like there's a bit of an edge, but he's just like
macho a bit, like
he's just really sound.
Well, that's what I got from this Bully's Barbers. No offense to anyone who goes there. If you live around Fairwater, they did me a perfectly fine cut. I just couldn't face, the pain of what I did to that poor child, so I never went back. But there was, what was I going to say then? You were mentioning, like male bravado. Oh, that's it. Yeah, being like this quite a cool sort of element, a macho element to it. I always do feel that sting of like them just rolling their eyes at me whenever they go like, "Oh, do you want some product in your ear, boss?" or something like that, and I go, "It's all right. I'm going to have a shower when I go home anyway."
I say that every time.
And they just, sometimes they don't even do it, but I know inside they're going like, "Oh, fucking pussy."
I always go, do you want me to style it? It's like, oh, it's okay. I'll have a quick shower.
It's all right.
Dust
I'm going for a
myself
walk
off."
as soon as I get home.
Sometimes I'll lie and say I'm going to the gym, so they think I'm going to be cool at a gym.
Amazing.
And I
Well,
go
you just
next door and
spouted
get-
earlier. Just be yourself, innit? Just be yourself. Be proud of it.
Judge me for what I say, not what I do. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
brilliant.
funny that you just the barber does do like. I used to go to a barber's up in when I lived near the hospital in the Heath, and that was like one of the first times. Like it was at the same time burgers became cool. Do you know, like all of a sudden burgers and dirty fries were all the rage?
Yeah, like smash
Barbers,
burgers and
yeah.
like some, not just your standard cheeseburger.
Yeah, so it was
something a
about
bit
10
different,
years ago. And it was the first time like beers became a big thing at the barbers. But it's the most pointless beer because you can't drink because you're getting your hair cut. So it's like,
yeah, you do feel
just
good
get
doing it. I felt cool doing it, and then it's like, yeah, you finish it and you finish your haircut, and then you're like, oh, that was kind of pointless, but it is free.
Well,
I've never had
usually,
to pay for it.
well, I know, yes, I know it's free, but I'd get the bottle, but then my hands are under that little 90 they put you under, so you can't really get your hand out to have a pint.
Oh yeah, one time they put it on the desk in front of you, and I had to keep like skirting my hand under the 90 out, grabbing it, taking a swig, and putting it back, and like the invisible drinker.
Oh, mate, we have to crack on. It's 20 minutes in.
Yeah, Christ. Okay, right. What are we talking about today? Well, you probably read the title. Today we're talking about the very serious subject, not that you'd have guessed from that intro, of Newport Rising. And yeah, so I'm going to be harping on about that today. And the Newport Rising was the last large-scale armed uprising in Wales, which occurred on the 4th of November, 1839.
Oh,
And
dare I say, my
oh,
birthday?
go on. Ooh, I didn't even make that connection.
Well, fuck you.
Well. A child of revolt. I like it.
Yeah. Is that, should I say my dirty birth? Yeah. Yeah, that's fine, isn't it?
They won't dox you during the year, do they?
Yeah, everyone
You're
hears
right.
sound. No one docks me, all right?
No one do it. And if anyone does, we know it's one of you lot.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, go on.
on that day in November 1839, around 10,000 Chartists marched on the town of Newport to fight for a fairer voting rights in the UK. Excuse me.
Dare I ask what a Chartist is? For a
Well, guess what
oh.
the start of my next note is, mate? So
Tell
what
you
is a
what.
Chartist, are you ask?
Zip my little mouth. And let me just close the door because I don't want to force Em to listen to all this madness. You keep going.
So, Chartism was a movement mainly associated with the working class. It strived for political reform in the UK, essentially. At the time the movement began to grow, only men 21 years or older who were landowners and who earned over a certain amount a year could vote. This essentially meant that only the middle class could affect the way the country was run, despite these working class boys being the ones who actually kept the country running because they were all in the industries that, essentially drove the country. The movement took its name from the People's Charter of 1838, which was presented to the House of Commons and swiftly rejected. Strongholds of the movement existed in Northern England, the East Midlands, Staffordshire, the Black Country, and South Wales Valleys. These movements were often tied to people who relied on a single industry. So in Wales, obviously, that would be coal. But in all these different sort of strongholds, it was because these men essentially would be working in an industry that would, because it was singular, it was subject to a lot of change. If some sort of tariffs went up or something like that meant there was less money in it. So it wasn't like being in I'm fucking this up now, but because everything was focused on one sort of industry.
Yeah, it's like if we move away from oil now, Russia.
Yeah, exactly. We find a new source of oil or something. Oil prices go down. That affects your pay and everything. Yeah. So, yeah, that's why.
So it could be quite a volatile market for people like that.
That's right. That you summed it up in 3 words in what I've just flubbered out of my mouth there. So yeah, a volatile market. So in summary, if you were a Chartist, you were very likely a working class person that worked like a dog for not much pay in an essential industry, and you weren't allowed a say in how the country was run, and you weren't very happy about it. So to give you a flavour of what was happening in the lead up to Newport Rising, in 1836, that was said to be the first instance of Chartists in Wales, when a guy named Hugh Williams, who was a solicitor and a radical reformer, he set up a meeting in Carmarthen Working Men's Club. So that was the first time sort of Chartists were talked about in Wales. Things ramped up, not just in Wales, but across the UK, when Parliament rejected the People's Charter in 1838, as I mentioned earlier. This charter was a petition that the Chartists put together, and it called to allow any man aged 21 years and above that were of sound mind and not undergoing a prison sentence to be allowed to vote. It also called for salaries for MPs, the right to a secret ballot, and the right to vote for those who did not own property. So basically doing away with all these kind of barriers.
And the reason for a
voting.
secret ballot was so people wouldn't be forced or strong-armed by other politics. Like if you had the chief whip,
exactly
say,
right, yeah. Because
you
if people knew who you're voting for, you could be pressured one way or another. It's also worth mentioning at the time that members of Parliament weren't actually paid at this point in time, and it was assumed that these members of Parliament would have their own means.
Yeah, so they'd be wealthy.
So basically, only
exclusive.
wealthy people could run for Parliament because they weren't getting a wage from it. So the reason they wanted salaries for MPs, if you bloody hell, am I right? They call it progress, and that's why they wanted to create a salary for Parliament members, because then the common person could run and know that they were getting paid to do the job afterwards. If they won. So the charter was dismissed by the House, as I said, and then on the 12th of July, 1839, a well-known Chartist called Henry Vincent was convicted of unlawful assembly and conspiracy for protesting against these, the rejection of the petition. This caused a big uproar in the Chartist movement. So Henry, being arrested, sparked a fair bit of anger, as I said, from the Chartists. And although they had been planning some kind of march, this really put some fire in their bellies, especially over that specific weekend. So this led John Frost, often talked about as being the kind of leader of the Chartists in Wales, and his associates to lead a three-pronged march towards Newport, joined by miners who had armed themselves with homemade pikes, bludgeons, and even firearms. I thought that was pretty fucking gnarly. Like, pikes and bludgeons, fair enough. That's probably easy to get hold of, but also bringing guns to the whole thing is a bit mad. So the three-pronged assault, one group was led by Frost, and he was coming to Newport from the west. Another guy called Zephaniah Williams.
Why exactly Newport? Why were they being drawn to Newport?
Well, during the gathering of these Chartists, like I said, because they'd already planned, they'd had some sort of march planned already before that Henry guy had been arrested. And before this, quite a few people had been arrested as being involved in the Chartist movement, as almost like a conspiracy to cause a ruckus type thing. That's not the official the reason they did arrest you, by the way. Exactly. So they marched on Newport because that's where a lot of the prisoners were being held. So, as I mentioned, they did like a three-pronged march. One group was led by Frost towards Newport from the west. Another guy called Zephaniah Williams led another group from Blackwood, which was coming from the northwest. And William Jones led another gang from Pontypool, which was coming from the north. So, surprise, surprise, it was Wales, so it was pissing it down, which delayed all three groups. The original plan was to meet up in a pub called the Welsh Oak in Rogerstone. Imagine, that's amazing. Like a huge, trying to overthrow like the way the workforce works. You go, should we meet the Oak? Yeah, down the Oak for 5. So,
all right, catch you down the Oak then, or what?
Catch you on the Oak, man, bruv. But the plan was to meet down this Welsh Oak pub in Rogerstone, and then sort of together march into Newport. But because of all the delays, because of the weather, the group from Pontypool, which was led by that William Jones, that didn't arrive until very early in the Sunday morning, so it delayed things quite a bit. But as soon as they arrived, they set off from the pub, and I also reckon that was probably a highly charged piss up that night when they're going, William Jones isn't going to be here for a while. Should we have a pint, shall we? And then, all through the night, it's getting absolutely hammered.
And I'm not going to start a fight, but if I fucking see one of them there,
I fucking get down there. I'm going to fucking spark them out. But so because they left early Sunday morning, like I said, I imagine there was a fair few of them they must have had a skim for. But either way, they marched down from the valleys, and on their way down, they were joined by more and more sympathisers as they passed different villages and towns,
That's class.
including in one of them, one town, it was a whole chapel congregation decided to march with them. So that
God's on
swelled
their
the ranks
side.
even more. Exactly. So that swelled their ranks even more, and all of Sunday, as they were marching down, was spent in like horrendous rainy weather on their way down to Newport. A lot of people who were initially very up for it, they lost a bit of momentum, as you can imagine. And what they did is when they sort of got into the outskirts of Newport, a lot of people kind of splintered off.
Oh yeah,
because like they kind of lost the oomph, I guess, because they were fucking soaking wet, awful weather. They've been trudging through them. You know, it's not like they had roads like we did now.
Yeah.
They'd be trudging through fucking muck and all that. So
Yeah.
a lot of people lost a bit of enthusiasm. But anyway, the local authorities in Newport had actually caught wind of this angry working class making their way down. And the mayor of Newport at the time, a guy named Thomas Phillips, he swore in 500 additional special constables, along with 32 soldiers from the 45th Regiment of Foot, to bolster the 60 soldiers that were already stationed at the city of Newport. Or rather, it was a town back then, but still. Once the Chartists did arrive in Newport, they were made aware that these members of the movement that had been arrested over the previous weeks and months, that they were being held in the Westgate Hotel, which was situated in the centre of the city, along with police and army troops. So an estimated 10,000 people, a big chunk of whom were armed, marched down Stow Hill until they got to the square in front of the hotel around 9:30 in the morning. I do have to caveat that some sources say it was 10,000 people. Others say that the whole march was 10,000 people. And by the time that people had like sort of splintered off and like they'd whittled down from the rain, it was more like 4,000 that actually marched on the square. But 10,000, didn't that sound like cool? Cool as fuck.
Yeah.
10,000 people.
Yeah.
But even 4,000 people, that's a hell of a lot of people. You know,
And if
just
it's only
stand in a square.
like 500 plus soldiers, whatever.
Like I said, 500 additional constables, and not all of them would have been in the Westgate anyway. They were just situated around town, so not all of them would have been there. And maybe 32 soldiers plus the 60 more. You know, you're vastly outnumbered either way. So the Chartists, they all surrounded the hotel. They demanded the release of the arrested associates, and to this day, it's still not ironclad who started it. But at this point, shots were fired, and a brief but bloody battle ensued. So the soldiers defending the hotel, they were vastly outnumbered, as I mentioned, but they had a hell of a lot more firepower.
And they were garrisoned, so it's easy to defend.
They were garrisoned. They were defending a closed-off building kind of thing. And the Westgate Hotel is... and they're trained for this sort of thing, The Chartists did manage to get into the hotel, apparently, briefly, but they were very, very swiftly pushed back and forced to retreat. So the whole skirmish lasted about half an hour, and once the dust had settled, around 22 Chartists were killed, and even more than 50 were injured. Of the defenders, they managed to get away with only 4 injured men, one of which was the mayor, again, that Thomas Phillips. He was shot in the arm and the groin. That's a pretty fucking savage. 2 places to be shot.
Yeah.
I did read one source, right? yeah. Even if they hadn't shot you in the groin, your arm's knackered.
Yeah.
But I did read one source that apparently one soldier died from 6 shots to the head, which sounds fucking gnarly as hell. But I couldn't find that corroborated anywhere else. That's I only found that on one source. So take that with a massive pinch of salt. I imagine that's just a bit of poetic license.
And I love salt.
You do love a bit of salt, more than a pinch. And once this battle was done, the Chartists fled. A lot of them dropped their weapons on the way out, which apparently were collected and you can still see today at the Newport Museum. And sources differ on who started the shooting. As I said, it's still not ironclad today who actually started it all. One Chartist called R.G. Gamage, who was very anti-violent, he thought the first shots came from the Chartists, his own side. Another source, Thomas Bevan Oliver, who was one of the special constables sworn in, he claimed that he accidentally bumped the door of the hotel against a Chartist gun while he was trying to hold them back, and that caused the firearm to accidentally discharge, shooting into the air. This spooked both sides, caused them both to fire at each other. That was his testimony anyway. Again, none of this confirmed. In the aftermath of all this, around 200 Chartists were arrested. 21 of those were charged with high treason. All three main leaders, John Frost, Zephaniah Williams, and William Jones, were three of those 21, and they were sentenced to be hung, drawn, and quartered. And they were the last people in England and Wales to be given such a sentence. Sounds awfully brutal, doesn't it, for 1800s? You'd think we'd like sort of gone past that kind of violence.
Intense.
Yeah.
So all three of them were?
Oh, they were the last people in England and Wales to be sentenced with that.
Yeah.
But thankfully, this sparked a nationwide campaign to reduce their sentence. And even at the time, the Lord Chief Justice, who is basically the head of the courts in England and Wales, he personally lobbied the Home Secretary as part of this campaign. And it was thankfully successful. The government eventually backtracked and they commuted their sentences to transportation for life, which basically meant when they'd ship you off to like Australia or one of the colonies. So you weren't allowed in the UK, basically. You got shipped off to one of these prison colonies, penal colonies even. And also a little tidbit here, William Price, that mad druid who we did an episode on before, he was also semi-involved in Newport Rising. He acquired cannons for the Chartists, which sounds insane.
That's classic.
But you go, show some cannons, lads. Yeah, check that in the mix. He managed to avoid any major repercussions, though. So if anyone listening wants to listen more about that, go listen to the William Price episode. That's a good one anyway. Yeah.
Submitted by I was going to say adorable. It's not adorable. My friend of the show now, Reese. Reese always sends some amazing suggestions. So and that was his suggestion.
And he is adorable. I'd go with your first adjective then. Adorable boy.
He's adorable. He is.
He's bloody adorable. So another famous Chartist called Ben Wilson. He was from Yorkshire. He was sort of doing.
Bloody Ben Wilson, you bastard.
Ben Wilson, you bastards! I'm a Chartist.
Right, tell you what, I'm a Chartist and I fucking hate this. Like,
right, I woke up last Sunday and I want the vote. Give the vote. Give the
fucking vote. I'll fuck off and I'll buy him chips for tea. All right, yeah. Not bad yourself.
Oh, so yeah. Oh, Ben Wilson.
I just say, they should have a better name than Chartists, because it sounds like they're like mad into spreadsheets. Like they should have like better fun names.
I think because of especially modern charts, it just sounds like they fucking. They sound like the boffins who like do all the number crunching in a company, don't they?
I was going to say, as a comparison, so it's not like how many do you say died on the Chartist side? There's 50 injured and
22 confirmed dead, and
so it's a bit
50 plus injured.
You know, like the insurrection on Capitol Hill when Trump's supporters tried to rush Capitol Hill. There was only like 4 dead there, and if you think how many attacked the building and how like Secret Service were in there. Like there was that one scene with that guy that like he's like an African American security guard on his own against pretty far right, mostly racist supporters, and he's like going upstairs. Have you seen that video of him on his own going upstairs? And he's
the one I've seen is where like someone is like smacked the window of the door.
Oh yeah, and she gets shot.
Someone behind it like has literally no choice but to go right, fuck off and shoot him.
Yeah, but no, this is a guy on his own coming up, and they are like hundreds swarming the stairs, and he has to keep going, and he draws them away from like I think it might have been OAC and some of the other senates, other members of the Democrat,
Alexandra Cortez, or whatever.
And some others. Like he's dragging them away from the Democrats, and he keeps going like floor 1 cleared, floor 2 cleared, and they're like coming closer to him, and he's got his gun, and he's like trying to hold them back, but not shooting them, because if he shoots, then he's dead. But he's also got so many of them, and it's generally so scary. He's going up and up and up, and they keep coming at him, and then he finally gets his reinforcements. But it does show if you're defending, it's a lot easier. Like another one we'll do one day, Zulu. There was like 99 Welsh soldiers or British soldiers against like 10,000 Zulus, and when you've got soldiers with guns and stuff, and you're defending.
Once you dug in, if you dug in, it makes things a lot easier because you're only it's in the tent pissing out. That's not what the army say, but it's a little bit easier to do. But this guy, this Ben Wilson, the Yorkshire boy, he wrote actually in one of his memoirs that if the rising in Newport had been successful, that would have essentially been like the go signal for a national
Civil War.
uprising.
Yeah.
And it would have been, all the working class would have rose up and it would have, really enacted a big change. Sadly, though, after the bloodshed and the fallout from Newport Rising, the Chartist movement sort of devolved into a bit of infighting. They didn't really know sort of how to progress, and there's a lot of tit for tat within the movement. This didn't mean that it was the end of the Chartists, though. They did remain active for many years. They campaigned for a while after the initial sentence had been reduced to get Frost, Williams, and Jones completely pardoned.
Yeah.
Smaller groups in Sheffield, East London, and Bradford, they planned their own, albeit smaller marches that didn't have quite as big an effect. There was one smaller rising consisting of hundreds as opposed to thousands this time that took place in Bradford. But the reason they did it is that they were hoping that it would have a domino effect on like the other communities next door.
Yeah.
And it would start like a
the
ball
people
rolling.
have the power.
Yeah, exactly. But it kind of fell on deaf ears. Nothing really happened, unfortunately. Newport Rising also changed the views of the middle class at the time. Unfortunately, this was for the worst because the middle class then were all convinced that any Chartists or even working class people in general really were all violent and dangerous thugs. And the mayor of Newport, that Thomas Phillips, who got shot in the arm and the dick, in the cack, he was proclaimed a national hero by the establishment, and he was knighted by Queen Victoria just 6 weeks after the event, praising him for putting to a stop to the rise. And they very much framed it as like, a noble middle class hero defying a violent mob, as opposed to like the oppressed marching on the oppressors because they'd have enough. So Frost actually did get pardoned in the end in 1856, so quite a few years after. He was allowed to return to the UK, where he was hailed as a hero when he returned to Newport, although he didn't choose to live there again. He ended up living near Bristol for some reason. Don't know why.
Not for me. Actually,
Not
think
for
it's
me.
Working class people around here.
Thanks
off.
for the accolade, but you're all scum to me. Yeah, I'm off.
Imagine that. You got to like a penal colony. You go, oh, Newport's a bit rough for me, actually. But I actually, me and you love
your life
Newport.
for that cause, and then went, fuck Newport. Yeah, didn't you know about the bloody new food court that's there? Christ almighty,
we love, and also like it's a fun place for boozing, in it. It's like it's got a real edge to it. Like it's definitely a bit of a rough and ready town, but I love it. There's
that one street in Newport. It's great. It's full of great boozers.
Yeah.
Go down to the Murringer, Le Pub. Yeah. Fucking great stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know why he didn't understand that at the time. What's wrong with him? But he, to be fair to Frost, he continued to advocate for reform until his dying day in 1877 at the age of 93. So he was, even till his dying days, he was sort of trying to enact change.
And when did they get the vote? Do you know?
Well, yes, I'm going to go into that now. So, as I was going to say,
on that point,
research,
can I say something smug?
Go on.
Societies grow great. I think that's saying. Societies grow great when old men plant trees in shade they know they'll never sit in. So
that's the one.
That's what he's doing. You work for things that don't even pay off for you. So that's what he did.
Precisely. I've got a little tidbit about that later as well. My own a final thought, if you like, which obviously I can't naturally progress into. I've got to announce beforehand. Yeah. But yeah, so that doing this research, it got me looking into other reforms and like key dates about voting and sort of when people got rights and stuff like that. So I've got a few quick fire facts for you, right? First one, for example, did you know Wales had no government representation in the UK until 1535?
Yeah, I imagine that makes sense.
They only started allowing Welsh representatives in the House of Lords then. And like, I knew that obviously, we didn't have much of a say because of all the history and everything, but like 1535, I was thinking, fuck, that seems quite late.
It became annexed into England, wasn't it? So it was.
We were just considered part of England, weren't we? I suppose, but it's madness.
It was Henry VIII was in charge then, wasn't it? Because his dad was Welsh, Henry VII, who someone did say we have to cover under him, and it
was either Henry VII or Henry VIII, whichever one it was.
I know in 35 it was Henry VIII.
Henry VIII was there.
Yeah.
Well, that's me told.
In 1535, that'd be Henry VIII. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, that first People's Charter was in 1838. That kicked off the whole Chartist movement. And then they sent a second petition to the government in 1842. This petition had over 1 million signatures. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot in today's standard,
Oh,
if
it
something is
does.
sort of
Yeah.
quite thing. But I mean, 1 million today is even quite impressive. But
Yeah.
back then, no social media, no internet, nothing like that. To get 1 million signatures, big time. Completely rejected once again. They tried a third time in 1848.
Well, if you want something
completely
discussed
rejected.
now, you need 500,000 signatures for it to be discussed at Parliament.
Let's have 1 million.
And it's so easy to get now compared to
Mm.
getting 1 million back then. So get well on you, lads.
Yeah, exactly. Good on you. And then the third time they tried, it said in 1848, again rejected. This time there was a lot more uproar about it. And the Chartists were led by a guy called Fergus O'Connor. He had a lot of connections with several radical groups that were absolutely not afraid of like causing violence and sort of property damage and things like that. So the government, being fearful of this, they revived an old law that hadn't been in use since King Charles II was on the throne back in the 1600s. The law stated that no more than 10 people could deliver a petition to the government at a time. So that meant absolute cowards. So that meant the Chartists couldn't do like a big march, like a demonstration or a march to hand the petition to Parliament. The government also had to swear in 100,000 extra men to bolster the police force at the time because of all the unrest that was going on. So the third time they rejected it, the Chartists were not happy. Working class people were not happy. It wasn't though until 1872 the Ballot Act came in, and that finally introduced secret ballots. So that was one part of the People's Charter that they were trying to get. And then it wouldn't be until 1884 that they finally semi-fulfilled what the People's Charter was asking for when they gave the majority of men in the country over 21 years old the vote. There were still some stipulations like about land and stuff like that, but the majority of men in the UK after 1884 could vote. Then it was 1918 when they gave the vote to every single man over 21 and most women over 30. The women over 30 who qualified still had property requirements similar to what the men had during the Chartist movement. So these women had to own a certain amount of property and things like that. So it was kind of like the same thing for them, what the men had, sort of 30 years prior. Then it was only 1928, the Representation of the People Act then lowered the voting age for women to 21 and removed the property requirements completely.
Crazy.
Followed
That's
by
like not even 100 years ago.
It is mad. But listen to this. It followed by an update to the same act in 1969 that lowered the voting age to 18 for men and women. I didn't know that it was that recent. That 18
in
was the voting age.
Wales, you can vote for the Senedd when you're 16.
Now you can. Yeah.
And if Labour come in, they're going to lower the voting age to 16, which makes sense. If you're working age, you should be given the right to vote. It's crazy that they're saying like you're not allowed to.
I saw some absolute knobhead on Good Morning Britain the other day that was going, "Oh, where does it stop? Should we let 12-year-olds vote? Should we let 11-year-olds vote?" And it's like, do you know when you're just like they're being deliberately like fucking obtuse, and it's like,
if you're old enough to be legally allowed to have sex, if you're old enough to legally allowed to have a job, legally allowed to get married, I think you should be allowed to vote, and it affects them. If you're going to have things like conscription come in, they should be allowed to have a say on if that's what they want. Fucking dumb.
Yeah, because if they're going into that, exactly, it's stupid.
We need to wrap this up because I'm dying for a piss, mate.
That's fair. So I was going to say my final thought for today's episode was similar to what you said earlier. Thank God there are people with the absolute cojones big enough to do this shit, because like I know me and you can be passionate about things, and we both have our things that we really believe in, and I know we would march for and do these things for.
You say that,
I would definitely be. Well, I would march with these Chartists, but I would know for a fact that I would never be one of the people to start it because I just don't have. I don't think I have the minerals.
And I think I'm a bit of a scrapper, so I wouldn't mind getting into a scrap. But I've been going through a real conscious battle recently that I'm not doing enough for. Whatever your viewpoint is on Palestine and Israel, what's going on now is just completely disgusting and abhorrent.
Oh, it's abhorrent.
And I just don't feel I give money to charity and stuff, but I don't know if that reaches the right people, and I just don't feel, and I don't do anything on social media because I don't really think that's always I think unless you do something in the real world, activism on social media is pretty pointless. But I haven't gone on a single march. I've not done anything like that, and I've signed some petitions online.
No, I know what you mean.
The guilt, and I feel like in 50 years' time, if like we had grandkids, they say, "Oh, what did you do to stop that genocide?" I'd be like, "I did fuck all."
And you go, "Not much."
Yeah, and I just think the guilt and shame I feel for it. Yeah, so I think I was debating it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna start doing more money towards it, but maybe we could do like a podcast fundraiser or something. Let's have a think about it.
Something we can do to help in a little way. But I mean, people like this, the people like this, Frost and everything, these are the people that fucking, like you said, they plant those trees that give shade to the future generations. And that me and you moan about a fucking 5-day work week, thankfully, instead of a 7-day one, an 8-hour shift instead of a mandatory 12.
Are you saying
because people like this actually had the bollocks?
We're starting the 2-day work week, and it won't. We're obviously mean. No, so we'll start the petition for a 2-day work week, and we'll be long dead and hung by the time it comes round. But they'll do a podcast about us in 70 years, saying if it wasn't for those two scoundrels,
I won't bother, mate.
Yeah, some shit. Please, I'm desperate for a piss. Please, can I?
All right, I'll let you go.
We didn't even plug the podcast. We'll do that next episode. No, not the podcast.
Oh, we didn't do any shout outs or anything.
No, we didn't.
We'll do it the next one.
Forgot.
Right?
Sorry.
You're fine.
Love you, bye.
Okay.
Bye.
You're the nicest looking woman outside of my mags, especially with your makeup when you're wearing your glam rags. I gotta tell you, I gotta let you know, I wanna buy you chips down to Mecca Bingo. We'll sit together, get 4 in a row. I'm with a China dog, I'm with it to our family show. This is romance, how it should be done. When it's you and me together, it can only spell fun. We'll walk together, buy some meat in the market. I'll put on the can as you smile and pack it. I gotta tell you about something I think. Without you in my chain, I'm the weakest link. So get down, baby, and feel my love. I'll get you drunk and weather spoons into a push or shove. I'll have a grow and get a last bus. A romantic date, just the two of us.
Yeah, one time.